Who's giving me the button?
Ooh,
Going live. Spinny
going
wheel.
live.
Spinny wheel. You're live. We're live. YouTube says we're live. Congratulations. We made it.
Awesome.
We're live.
We're YouTube official now.
Hello, everyone. I gotta clean up some stuff here because we don't have the mighty Moloch with us. We only have the lovely Hydra. Ooh-hoo-hoo-hoo. So yeah. Hello and welcome to this, the #1 tiered shit show on the internet. I'm your host, Modern Synthesist, otherwise known as Mr. Pink, and I am joined today by my erstwhile companions, Hydra.
Hello.
Say hello, Hydra.
Hello, Hydra.
Flynnhammer.
Hello.
There he is. And we have a special guest this week. We are joined by the Zolak from Instagram. Want to say hi, Zolak?
Absolutely. So, as they say in Persian, Salam Bahamagi, and the translation in English is hi, everyone.
Cool. There we go. All right, and that's very appropriate that you gave that greeting in Persian because we're going to be talking about some Persian related stuff on this stream.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and thank you so much for coming on to talk to us about that stuff. Before we get into that, though, we do this thing on the stream. I don't know how often you've caught the stream, but every week we have to decide what part of... Are you familiar with Rick Priestley?
Ooh, the name rings a bell at the moment. Being put in the spot, I feel a little bit deer in headlights, so I'm going to say no. And play
So
ignorant.
don't worry, he invented Warhammer 40K 4 years before you were born, from my understanding. So you're
91,
okay.
baby.
You're okay with not knowing who Rick Priestley is. We only joke about him because we're old men here who've been around the block. Well, I don't know. I'm an old man. Hydra's pretty old. Flynn is still youthful. You know, he's a pretty youthful dude. But Moloch is as old as the hills. So yeah, Rick Priestley is one of the dudes who created Warhammer 40K, and we have this joke because Moloch would always tell us, "Hey, did I tell you guys about the time I was in Rick Priestley's basement?" And we're like, no, only 1,000 times. So the joke every episode is we have to pick a part of Rick Priestley's palatial estate that we are coming to people from. And as you're the special guest, if you had to pick a part of a huge mansion belonging to a Warhammer creator, what part of that huge mansion would you be coming to people live from today?
The celery where the wine is kept.
Oh, fancy. Zolak here, going for some fanciness. Awesome. So we're coming to you live from the wine cellar? Is that what we're doing?
We are.
Nice.
All right, thank you. I feel like, have we ever come to them live from the wine cellar before? Or are we never that classy?
We've gone back to the wine cellar.
Yeah, we're going back.
Yeah.
That's
We're a bit of a mess.
I swear, like, someone got us in there, but maybe we never left.
That would explain some things, wouldn't it?
Keep popping
That would
bottles.
explain some things.
I think we need a list of where we've been.
Well, I feel like I started... What did I do? No, I did a crazy thing where, like, sometimes I'll take the video from the stream and I'll, like, edit out a clip of it and make it into some other video. And I'm pretty sure that when I was doing that, I started taking the part where we say what part we're coming to them live from and, like, putting that into a different file. So I have started this.
Oh, wow.
There will be a supercut of all the places we've come from in Rick Priestley's house one day. I just don't know when.
Is it gonna be like a silver tower from Age of Sigmar where the rooms just keep getting added and some rooms just vanish over time?
Yep, I think so.
Oh, I like this. I support this idea.
But it could also be, we're not coming from the same wine cellar we came from before.
No, there's multiple wine cellars.
You saved us. Okay, and as we are like a few minutes in the show, here's a hobby tip already.
Oh, good man.
Yeah, if you desperately want to turn your workspace into an ugly mess, you you just use this stuff. This is
What is it?
This has been gifted to me by a good friend from Maga Potato. Greetings go out.
Mega Potato.
Yeah, it's cocos fiber humus. It's probably shredded coconut shell. pressed together, but when you break it apart, it apparently becomes nice stuff to use for basing, because there are all those fine hairs and fibers in there, and it's very resilient.
Yeah.
Oh, it's coconut fiber, right?
Sorry?
That's coconut fiber.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people use it in their tutorials. I'm like, where the hell do I find it?
Yeah, apparently you can. It's rather cheap, and it comes in massive blocks. So I had a friend buy a massive block and said, "Well, I send you some stuff," and I have just started to crumble that apart to use for my chocolate bar things that I've been doing, yeah, it turns my whole workspace into a dusty, crumbly mess. It's everywhere now, and I will have to clean up for hours after this.
I support the struggles.
I went so far to be so smart to get a container, but it turns out to be massive. Like, I used just a few inches of that, and it turns into this big flock, and it is everywhere now.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty cool,
cow.
though, because it has all those little hairs in there and stuff like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah.
Nice.
It's freaking everywhere now.
Do you have a shop vacuum?
Sorry?
Do you have a shop vacuum that you could use to help you later?
Sadly, not. I once had
That would be smart.
a vacuum cleaner, but that has gone way too long. And you probably not know it, but this is not my regular workspace where I do hobby stuff.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, if once I have settled for a place where I constantly hobby, I will probably do the effort and get one for that space. But yeah,
Dude, how have you not settled yet?
Yeah, I'm a nomad within my own house. Like I always have like different things. Like I need my computer right here to have my webcam installed, so I'm at my workplace. So
yeah.
I feel you on that. For this stream, I had to set up my computer, set up on my computer desk. So if anyone goes and looks at Instagram right now, other than sharing all the news about what's going on in Iran, which we will dive into later, you get to see this horrendous looking corner that looks like a hoarder's paradise, and it's my computer desk before setting up for this stream.
Wait, are you live on Instagram right now?
I am not live on Instagram. No. I just shared your link in my story.
Oh, thanks. No, you're talking about like showing your space, but yeah, that fiber thing's really cool. I feel like I've seen people use it and not understood what it was. And I'm guessing that we might be able to get it at like garden stores over here. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Garden stores are the best.
Let me know if you find some, Mr. Pink. I will run over to that part of Toronto and grab some myself.
Yeah, that's what I should have mentioned. That Zolak's actually in Toronto as well. So we're both coming from the Great White North today. We're trying to imbalance the Europe focus on this stream. Yeah. So blah, blah, blah. Thanks for the hobby tip, Simon. Simon, those dudes that we're seeing on your camera,
yeah.
I want those to be Genestealer cultists, but they're not, are they? They're Stargrave.
They're my Stargrave cultists. Yeah, my Genestealer cultists are like or can be considered lore-wise their counterparts. Like these dudes are the if you think about Lovecraftian stories, these are the investigator dudes.
And, the ones that go mad.
Sorry?
The ones that go mad, usually in the story, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Like, he's a former scientist.
Poor man.
Psychic dude. He has a weapon and a book in the grimdark future. It's always good to have a book.
Never know when you need to pray or investigate.
Yeah, he's more the investigator kind of guy.
You know he means business because he brought a book.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
Absolutely.
you know he means business as he doesn't have a sidearm in his hand.
Oh. He's a man of wisdom.
Yeah, and psychic powers. I don't need my hands to blast your head off.
Sticks and stones, friends. Sticks and stones.
So yeah, what are you working on, Jones?
Oh, I'm working. I got to finish this Barghest-pattern Lictor eventually, and I need to find a tail for him. I got this weird little stump on him, but I don't know what I should use to make his tail out of.
Have you thought of a venom throat whip?
Yeah, I got those. I got a couple of those here. I think that's what Barghest actually did. But I feel like that's like... Oh, actually, that looks really good. Shit. I was like, no, that'll just be ripping off Barghest. I gotta do something more complicated and difficult, and it works.
Okay,
gotta up the ante.
Alright, if you don't want to do that one, then just do a warrior's lash whip. So it splits into two.
Oh yeah, I got one of these here. One of those here.
What I kind of like is that I don't know which miniature it was, but there was one that had a split tail. That could be cool.
Oh, was it one of the Chaos Dragons or something?
Archaon's mount actually has multiple tails. Yeah, Archaon's dragon, which is funny enough named Seraphon, which is just more confusing for AOS.
No, his dragon's name's Seraphon? That's a little busted.
I wish I was kidding. Because when they did the switch to AOS, I remember I was trying to look up paint schemes for Seraphon to get inspired because I didn't want to do the traditional, and it just kept showing up pictures of Archaon. I'm like, why is this happening? Why is this happening?
Oh.
Didn't the Archaon model come out during the end times before they moved over to Age of Sigmar, where they renamed everything?
I believe so.
I think so.
Yeah, so that's why they would have called it that first, and then they changed the name of it. Like,
oh,
right,
because Seraphon were named after the end times. They changed the names for them.
Yep.
And you can't really blame Games Workshop when they have done it in the past, where they've called 2 units the same name with the Abominant.
You mean Reavers?
Wait, are you talking about Space Marine Reavers?
Friggin' versions of... Are you talking about Dark Eldar Reavers? Are you talking about Blood Reavers? What other Reavers do we have? There's got to be more.
Titans.
Oh, God.
Good answer.
You're
yes.
right. Well played.
I was thinking more of the Abominant with the...
Titan.
Yeah, this is the Reaver Titan. It's the second... it was the second tallest one. But yeah.
Okay, so I really want to use one of these like Toxicrene things as a tail, but I think they're too beefy.
Yeah.
I think it's not elegant enough. It's not what Barghest would do, and I'm trying to rip off Barghest's ideas. So
is that an inspirational quote above your hobby table?
What would Barghest do?
Oh yeah, it should be. Actually, you joke, but it should be, man. Like Barghest always comes up with the freshest stuff, man.
Dude, I love seeing.
He's here, right? I thought I saw him. There we go.
So he says the Tyrannocyte tendrils are good for tails. And Barghest says Archaon's beastie is called Dorghar, and in Age of Sigmar, it devours the 3 greater demons that are sent to challenge Archaon in the mortal realms, hence the 3 heads. Oh, where's the Slaanesh head? Why wasn't Slaanesh sent? Oh wait, Archaon
Slaanesh was in a box somewhere.
Cancelled.
Games Workshop was trying to decide if they were afraid of Slaanesh.
Well, no, Barghest has already pricked me to that. He says Archaon rejects the horned rat, and Slaanesh was obviously not there. Dwarfen's gone Barghest with the law without having to look any of it up. The Chad.
That is accurate. I do remember this being part of like when they were bestowing gifts on him. Yeah, he spit on the horned rat, and Slaanesh was too fat to make it to the meeting.
Too fat?
Too fat? Too sexy, more like.
No, Slaanesh and AOS lore actually ended up consuming all the elven souls. Yeah, so Slaanesh literally could not move.
Oh.
Isn't it Marathi?
That's how they solve Slaanesh being too sexy. They're like, no, you're not going to be sexy. You're going to be fat.
And then they hit Slaanesh forever until more recent AOS releases, which are pretty hot.
Doesn't Marathi
Sexy
rip
business.
herself out of
Is it-
Slaanesh?
Yeah, Marathi was one of the first elven gods to get out. Actually, the only elven god that got consumed. She made it out, so all the other elven gods asked for her help and her knowledge on how they got out, and in return, she asked for her own portion of the elven souls, which is why we have the sexy snake ladies now.
Yeah.
And God bless those cool snake models.
Yeah. Finally, good snake models for Dark Eldar quartz. Quartz.
I know, eh?
Wait, you mean you're not
The
buying them for
sil-
AOS?
Why would
I think you're the only one here who cares about AOS, man. Except for like
No,
Flynn
I
who
just-
cares about giants, I guess.
Listen, let me correct you on that fact. I just love the sculpts as much as the next person, and Lizardmen
Yeah.
are how I actually got in the hobby back in 2003 when Eaton Center downtown Toronto had the Games Workshop store. I
Yo,
remember
that's a
buying-
deep cut, buddy.
Yeah.
Eaton Center. That's a deep cut.
I walked in there, I saw the Lizardmen on the table, and my child lizard brain was like, oh, dinosaurs riding dinosaurs?
What's better than one dinosaur? 2 dinosaurs.
Sign me up.
Dino Riders riding Dino Riders.
Right? It's so meta.
Perfect. Yeah, so Zolak, why don't you tell us a bit more about like how you got into the hobby and stuff?
Absolutely.
As you are new to the stream.
New to the stream, old to the hobby as I just aged myself a little bit. I know I'm not as old as the rest of you veterans here. I got into the hobby after we immigrated out of Iran in '99. And again, that story of Games Workshop is like the best example of how I started getting into the hobby. I had a few friends in middle school that also played, but they played 40K. So I looked at Tyranids and I'm like, these are like dinosaurs, but in space. So I got into Tyranids back then in 3rd edition, moving into 4th, when we got a lot of the new sculpts that, haven't been changed since then. Shame on UGW, but rumors are we're going to get new sculpts. And university,
Yeah.
I took a break because, expensive hobby is expensive.
As one does.
Right? I feel so good hearing
Expensive hobby.
Well, everyone does it.
Pretty other people.
that.
What
Absolutely.
you want to say is that you spend your hard-earned money on other things than miniatures.
When there was money, student life was not fun.
Yeah.
Lots of struggles there. And then when I became an adult again,
Again.
not again. Sorry, for the first when I finally became an adult.
What
Let me
kind of being are you?
listen. We're not gonna get into all my deep dark secrets today.
Not too bad.
Once I became an adult, correction. I think chat's gonna question me on that. I got back into the hobby again, and COVID was actually a big help in that, of actually picking up things. I had a bunch of buddies in Ottawa before I moved back to Toronto that I would play with, and I started collecting. And GSC, my God, the new GSC models that came out were just so beautiful.
Oh,
I had
Gene
to go
Stealer
back
cults.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I didn't know what you're talking about there.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
said the acronym GSC. Yeah, when Gene Stealer
Yeah,
cults
you're on a
came,
first name
came
basis.
out.
I gotcha.
Yeah. When Gene Stealer Cults came out, I also came out of the works and joined the Uprising again. All hail the four-armed
Nice.
emperor.
Sweet. All right. So you're into Age of Sigmar. You're into 40K as well. You got
I
your
am
start with
actually,
Tyranids, so you're automatically cool.
Thank you.
Was it?
I was gonna say I'm actually more into Kill Team, hence why I've been letting you know, hey, if you needed to learn, let me know. I'm more than willing to
Yeah.
sit and play a game. Our shout out to anyone who's here from Maple Leaf Wargaming, our gaming club in Toronto. We have actually become officially tournament recognized for Kill Team.
Cool.
Oh, cool. What does that entail? Like, what
So-
happens when you become officially tournament recognized for Kill Team?
So what that means is that we can do organized play events. So every time you see those Warcom articles that come out about the tournament packages, we can request those.
Yeah.
We also do get early access to some content that we can start reviewing and giving our feedback on as well.
Really? That's awesome. Congrats.
Yeah. And I will also be producing content for them on TikTok, Twitch, and Instagram very soon. Actually, I
for
have to have a
Maple
meeting.
Hobby or for
Maple Leaf Wargaming.
more Maple Leaf Wargaming. Okay, gotcha.
Yes. They're really a bunch of chill dudes. I myself was very hesitant to go join a Warhammer gaming club, and I'm sure you all in the hobby understand exactly why, with the kind of people that you could potentially run into. But I had a friend of mine who was new to the country. He had moved over from the States, originally from the UK, and he introduced me to this gaming club. Everyone was super chill. Everyone was super welcoming, and yeah, ever since then, I show up every other Saturday to play with them and teach.
Nice. And do they run it out of like a particular like space, like a shop, or?
They have their own venue that they run it out of. They rent it out every other Saturday, and everyone shows up there to play. That is more of a members information, but if you are ever interested in checking it out, I am
curious if
more
they were,
than happy to
out of a
take it
store.
No store. Not for this.
You have to know the secret knock. You have to travel through the secret underground tunnel. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's it's like joining a GSC cult. That's how it works.
You're already talking my language. I like it.
Oh yeah, I have a lot of crazy conversions that I need to just show you that I've made that will never get to be played because they're not viable models. I just think they're cool. I bought
are they not
Fabius.
viable?
Well, I made. First of all, you only can use like one Biophagist in regular 40k, and I love the whole concept of Twisted Helix. So I made I thought in my head, right? So I made a bunch of different Biophagist model. I took Fabius Bile, just cut off the little mechanical arms on his backpack. That's the only thing I bought the kit for. Just so I can make this Biomagus with. I mixed the Manipulus.
That's how you know you're a big game converter. That's how you know you're a big game converter.
Absolutely. And
that buy this kit for the head.
Yeah, I actually shout out to anyone if you want Fabius Bao without his backpack, let me know. I'm sure you can creatively make the arms back. His minion has also
Simon might take you up on that. His what? His minion?
His minion I also turned into another Biophagist.
That's another great model.
Yeah, he's mostly broke, so the arm coming out, I just replaced it with one of the more humanistic rending claws on the in the Gene Stealer kit, since we get so many of those in the kit, and yeah, so he got turned into one as well.
Cool.
If you said you can't use them all, you could just use them as a actual just hybrid unit that are all doctors.
Yeah.
Oh, I could.
Or just say they're all neophytes or something.
Yeah.
Like
they're so big though. They're so big.
Then aberrants.
Well,
aberrant. So I love aberrants. I absolutely love aberrants. But when you're playing, they're not as viable of a unit for how much they cost, which is a little sad.
So here's your first problem is that you're thinking about winning. You gotta just make cool models for the shit of it and hope that something good happens.
Well, this is what happens when you become a tournament player.
I'm not that sweaty tier. I will give that disclaimer. I'm not that sweaty tier. But
sweaty tier? That's the thing. That's the expression. Sweaty tier.
Yes, absolutely.
I got to use this with my buddy. I always accuse Koska Made of being a filthy power gamer, but now I'll tell him that he's sweaty tier.
Yeah, tell him how sweaty is your tier. He'll be like, what? The more you know. I'm flattered that I'm educating you guys on some of the lingo.
Wait, is that sweaty tier T-I-E-R or sweaty tier T-E-A-R? Are you getting sweat in your tears?
No. You're not. Your tears are not made of sweat, but you're up there in terms of the tier of sweat.
The sweaty tier, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, you can probably keep educating me all night long because I have got a slight of a clue what's happening in the Warhammer meta since ages.
I don't really.
Hey, we know about
really
Votan. We talked about Votan.
They are cool. They're super cool. I did not pay attention to what the rules were at launch, or even I guess prior to launch, really. So
Apparently
yeah,
didn't matter.
Honestly, I just spent a lot of time reading up on GSC because I was playing against my buddies one weekend, and the factions they play are really tough matchups. Fighting anything that's Space Marines as GSC is just brutal. And the thing is, the faction itself, there's very little room for error. So if you go in and you make a lot of mistakes, you just suffer the consequences. Whereas a Space Marine player has multiple wounds on their models. They can make a lot of mistakes and they can learn from it. As a GSC player, it's a tough world out there, man. T-shirt saves and thoughts and prayers are the only things that kind of keep you alive.
As I said,
some tournament lingo we're learning here. T-shirt saves. Look at that.
Absolutely.
All right, cool. So go ahead.
It's not my birthday yet, but I'm still feeling I'm feeling older and older here.
Don't worry. It's just different parts of the hobby.
I'm fine.
Start talking about different putties, and I'm sure you'll leave Zolak in the desk.
Oh, I watch your guys' videos enough that I understand the lingo there.
Oh, there you go. All right, good. Yeah. So thank you for giving us a rundown, like, of your hobby background, how you got into the hobby, and thank you also for joining, because this, like, for the last week at least, more than that, I guess, you've been posting a lot of stuff on Instagram, just like informing followers, gamers, whoever follows your Instagram about what's going on in Iran right now. And I've really appreciated all the stuff that you have shared, because I'm definitely guilty of not knowing enough about what's going on in Iran. And the more that I've found out about it, like, the more, I don't know, both infuriating from the angle of what people are going through and inspiring from the angle of who are the people resisting the current regime in Iran. Like, we're talking like teenagers, like teenage girls in their schools, in a country that doesn't provide a lot of rights to women, are standing up to, like, armed military forces. And, like, this is stuff that I didn't fully understand. So yeah, just thanks for everything you have been sharing. And I was hoping that you could kind of share a little more info on that stuff with folks on stream today. And just kind of maybe, because, like, we're in our hobby, not everybody necessarily interfaces with, like, news the same level as everyone else. And even if they are, like, I've heard a lot of, like, the news is not really covering Iran as much as they should be.
No, absolutely not. And first and foremost, I want to say that I'm extremely humbled by the fact that you wanted me to come in here and talk about such a heavy topic. I understand that there's a lot of things going on in the world, and, you know, we come here and we sit and do this hobby so that, you know, we can escape the day-to-day struggles that we face in the world, and we come here to kind of just connect with people on something. So the fact that you've decided to give me this opportunity to come and speak about this, I really wanted to think about it. And something that I wanted to mention is that when I first started in the hobby, a lot of you would be talking about in White Dwarf articles and blog posts and internet forums that were buried deep unless you knew who to talk to and how to find it, or were really good at searching Google back then when it was a lot harder to find this information. So I've grown up in this hobby seeing a lot of the content you guys have put out there and a lot of the tutorials you guys have put out there. So coming in here and giving you guys all information is very humbling for me. It's extremely humbling for me.
Well, so don't. No need to feel humbled. I think, Simon, were you going to say something? I feel like you were going to say something right there.
I know, you go ahead.
Oh, well, what I wanted to say was that we try to talk about more than just hobby whenever we can. And like, ever since kind of the Warhammer for Everyone thing blew up, and I feel like when that was happening, there was a lot of people, not a lot of people, there's some people in the hobby who were like, you know, this is my hobby space. This is where I come to escape. I don't want to hear about this real world stuff. And the thing that really stood out to me when all that was going down is that the fact that we can decide to just like distance ourselves from real world stuff. The fact that we can just kind of like peace out and go into a hobby zone and like ignore the world for a while, that is a privilege that we have, capital P privilege. And people in Iran don't have a lot of time for hobby right now. Just as like when Warhammer for Everyone was going down, like the people who were experiencing being ostracized in Games Workshop events or spaces, they didn't get to peace out and chill out and enjoy their hobby, because when they went in, they were being faced by, like, I don't know, people resisting them, people challenging them. So yeah, I think it's important that we're aware that not everyone gets to chill out and enjoy the hobby all the time, and hopefully this can help us appreciate it. Simon?
Yeah, I think this is one point, and I've come to think about why I'm doing this hobby. Like in the last 3 years, I think COVID has been a massive game changer to my hobby thing. And when I used to be like a stone, like, you know, those stone faces.
The Stonehenge? Oh, not the Stonehenges. I know which ones you're talking about. The ones on the Easter Isles.
Oh, Easter Island?
Yes.
Yes.
I used to, hobby-wise, I used to be one of those, like staring in one direction forever and not moving and just working on one thing. I've become more of that hobby butterfly people are talking about. And at some point, I stopped and started to wonder why this was happening to me and why I had shifting priorities game-wise. Why I suddenly started to play like things as Frostgrave and Stargrave and Sludge and Grolocane, and thinking about starting Necropolis 28 and stuff like that. And I was wondering why this was happening to me. And one of those reasons was because I realized the hobby project that enables me to socially interact with someone else is always the highest priority, at least with me. And I would love to see like this scientifically been proved, but I guess that that's important for other people as well. So as long as you have someone to interact with, like showing your miniatures to, playing with, like your best buddy comes up and says, "Hey, I have this new game I want to try out," and are you rejecting this this hobby time, not this hobby time, but the social time you could spend with your best dude on a certain game? And I understood that I'm not doing that for myself. So when my best buddy comes up, or not my best buddy, but my hobby buddy comes up and says like, "Oh, I found this interesting setting or game or rule set or whatever, and I would like to try that out," this automatically becomes my priority number one, because I want to play a game with my friend. And so to me, the social aspect of our hobby is the most important. If it hadn't been for Warp Shadow and the forums back in the day, I would have definitely stopped working on models, because the forum has been a massive push to finish things, to exchange ideas, and now I'm circling back. So at least to me, and as I said, I could swear this counts for other people as well. The social aspect is the most important thing in my hobby. In my hobbying. And if you socially interact with other people, you can of course just look at your just at the hobby things. And this is what I used to love about hobby stores. You go in there, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what your skin color looks like, or how much you earn a month. You go in there and you turn into the nerd that's into Blood Angels or into Tyranids or whatever. And this has been always very important for me. But I think you have to look at the whole picture of like social interaction. And when someone walks in, Well, I used to talk about hobby stuff at first, and then after you have gotten to know each other, you started, of course, talking about other things as well. And this is how I got to know Unique, and how I got to know Marco and Flynn and a lot of other people. I've been talking about other things than just hobby. Of course, there's always the hobby part you can retire to once you kind of have run out of other topics to talk about, or it's still like a point where you always can go back to. But I
you have
think
something
the
in
rest,
common.
the thing in common, but the rest is as important. And to say I go to my hobby to retire from the real world is, I think, at least to me, a paradox.
I respect that.
I see the hobby more as a window out in the world, because if it hadn't been for my hobby interactions, I would be so limited in my view of the world. And yeah, turning it around has been so liberating and so educating and so incredible. Yeah, I'm lost for words here. Like, for example, getting to know you is very important to me. Is part of my hobbying and learning what you have to say.
I appreciate the kind words, and that's something that I kind of realized myself over the last. I apologize, we're not talking about Iran yet. We will talk about it, I swear, in about 5 minutes.
That's okay.
Don't worry.
I have notes. I have notes. I have posts ready.
Notes.
To share.
Holy cow!
Good to go. Yeah. So for myself, actually, the Warhammer community as a whole has been a big level of support that I did not expect to see when I started to share all the content that was going on in Iran. Mr. Pink, you started to share all the content that you could. There was I was getting a lot, so I threw out there on Instagram an AMA post. Ask me anonymously questions about what's going on in Iran. And I started to get a lot of really, I was getting trolled by the questions, essentially.
Oh yeah, I saw you had one where it's like, do you like cats or dogs? I'm like, what the fuck? That has nothing to
do.
But it could be that people are just not comfortable. I don't know.
So, or it could have been bots, as from what other friends said. True. So what I chose to do, even though I was angry and frustrated at that situation, is turn it around and educate people on what the norms are back home in Iran, so that people are still educated. I turned what was a frustrating situation into an opportunity for myself. And there was actually people that reached out to me within our own community that are like, I am so sorry you have to answer these questions. Please ignore the trolls. And they started to actively share stuff. Average Joe, who does all the crazy crude conversions, him and I were chatting last night on Instagram, and he was telling me he would love to be able to go back to Iran, or not go back to Iran, go to Iran, correction. For myself, it would be going back to Iran, and just see how beautiful the country is, because the country has a lot of historical beauty and significance. So it's been very humbling for me, and it's been very, I'm amazed at the level of support that I've seen in this community and the level of outreach from everyone. Even when I was actually Saturday, we were organizing a narrative event at Maple Leaf Gaming, and I was helping organize it. And when we were all having lunch, I had this moment where I looked down at my phone, and I'll explain the context of this in further depth in a little bit, where I saw an email from my dad. Just to give you guys context about what's going on in Iran, if you're not aware at the moment, there has been internet and cellular blackout for, I'm probably misquoting here, but I believe it's 20. I know the protests have been going on for 20 days, and we will dive into that. But the internet blackout has been going on for well over 2 weeks. I was not able to talk with my parents, which both of them are back home, for quite some time. And the only way that I was starting to get updates the week prior was through emails. And it was all very cryptic and very quiet responses that they're just okay. I didn't know how my cousins were doing back home. I didn't know what the real situation was. And all I was able to get was from tidbits and stories and reels that were coming out on Instagram. And this was kind of a very pivotal moment for a lot of us of Iranian descent. There's no turning point. There is no going back with what's happening in Iran. And damn it, I'm already going off the rails and not sticking to the story that I wanted to go to. Now, one thing I'm going to start with is all of us are into 40K and all of us have a certain level of the understanding of the lore. We all understand that the Imperium of Man in the 41st millennium is a theocratic, authoritarian regime. That same reality exists in our current world today in Iran. Right now, the people that are protesting, and the protests have been going on for 20 days, from one of the most recent videos that I watched today coming out of BBC News, and I'm thankful that BBC News is actually covering the news properly and not trying to change the narrative, and we will further go into this topic point as well today, is that there's been over 300 protests in over 50 cities and villages. This isn't a thing that's in the cities. This isn't a thing that's just one single subsect that's upset and angry about the current situation. It is every single person. It doesn't matter whether you're secular or you're religious. It doesn't matter your age group. Everyone no longer believes in the regime, no longer believes that their best interests are in mind. People want freedom of speech. They want freedom to express themselves. And women, which is the biggest part of this movement, want the same rights as women across the world. Right now, as it stands, under Islamic law, if you're a woman and you want to travel outside the country, you have to either A, be accompanied by a man, or B, be provided documentation and a dated letter to the airport to be able to leave the country from either your father, if your father's not alive, your brother, if they're not alive, some sort of relative that's a male figure. That's the current standards that we live in Iran. And I will be honest, I myself have, it's emotionally taken a big toll on me. As someone who grew up there, as I mentioned, we immigrated in '98. At that time, we were first testing the waters of wanting to immigrate to Canada, and we went to Calgary for a few months. Then we moved back. Then when we came back to Canada, we immigrated to Toronto in the province of Ontario. I am one of the lucky few that got out. It's not as easy now. Back then, it was a lot easier to get your citizenship in a different country. And it started to get progressively worse and more challenging and difficult for people to get out of the country. There's a lot of us, and that's why a lot of us here in Canada and in the West and outside of anyone that's outside of Iran feel so strongly about this. A perfect example is that we haven't had proper media coverage about what's happening, and it's fallen on people that have a following. So Iranian American comedians are sharing the information of what's happening. Actors, activists, politicians, lawyers, people who even have a small business, they're paying for ad space on social media to raise awareness about what's going on, because there's not enough news coming out. With the blackout, I might talk to my dad tomorrow or Sunday, and the only things that I get to see from him are messages telling me how sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional here, how proud he is,
of course,
that I'm this outspoken and this vocal and trying to spread word about what's going on back home. With that all said, I'm going to start going through some of the facts and the historical contexts of what's going on right now. But before I do that, I do want to open the door to any questions that people may have at the moment. So if anyone wants to read out any questions for me, I'm more than happy to start answering those before I start to go through things in a chronological order of what's happened and why we're here now.
We haven't got any in the chat yet, but when you said it's been going on for about
might get some
20 days, I was a bit surprised because I've only seen it being covered like BBC News over the last 3 or 4 days. That could be because I've not really been paying attention, and also
BBC only So Flynn, you haven't been hearing about it because BBC's only started to cover it this week.
Oh, jeez.
And this all started from, I'm sure if people don't know everything that's going on, they might have at least heard the name Mahsa Amini. She died at age 22 while detained by the morality police in Tehran. She is originally...
Was it about OnlyFans or something like that? Or something else? I remember seeing something on the news recently about OnlyFans. No, I think that was Thailand or something.
Yes. There is no OnlyFans association here.
I was going to say.
We're just trying to have freedom of speech. We're not getting that spicy yet in Iran. So
that's very strictly.
So I brought up one of the prominent pieces of art that has been shared since her death. It's one of the ones that I've seen the most. A depiction of Mahsa Amini.
I am tuning into the stream right now to see it.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So the picture you posted, that picture is one of the most commonly used ones. It's one of the most artistic ones. The ones people chanting and marching on the streets are mostly using her own picture. But I thought for my own post that this one would have a good level of relevance, and it would be a little bit more engaging with people versus just pictures of a person, because people tend to look at that and kind of disassociate, unfortunately. I used to be a community manager, which is why I also understand social media presence and how to coordinate all that bit of information. Yes, so that is one of the pictures that has come out. I don't have any recent high quality videos from what's been happening in the protests to know if those are the pictures that are being used. But that is one of the most iconic ones, absolutely. So, to go back to Mahsa Amini. She is of Kurdish descent. For anyone that does not know, Kurds are a cultural background that after colonization was done and the borders were drawn on the maps, Kurdistan was divided amongst 4 countries. Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. So what happened with her is that she was visiting the city with her brother. When she was there, sorry.
When you go back that far about Kurdistan, why I never quite understood why they were cut up, because was it just because the colonists just drew lines on maps and didn't care who was living where, or
yes, it was arbitrary lines drawn.
Okay, but it was because I feel like the Kurds have like live very under pressure, like in Turkey and all kinds of countries, and
Absolutely.
is it like a cultural thing, or I'm just lost for words. I just don't know how to put it, but I
understand your question already, actually. To answer that, everybody fears for them pushing for a nationalistic movement to try and consolidate all their land, because nobody, when it comes to any sovereign state, nobody wants to lose property. Also, disclaimer, I am a political science student as well, which is why I know as much as I do. I've extensively studied the region, so good. I will have a lot of answers for these. Don't ask me to quote my citations, as it's been a very long time, but I have studied political science extensively.
The fact they've got informed and understanding of it makes it a lot better than just someone saying, this is what it should be.
Right. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, to go back to what happened with her. So she was visiting Tehran. She was only there with her brother. The morality police saw how her hijab, and for anyone that doesn't know what that term means, hijab is the headscarf that women are required to wear by Islamic law to cover themselves up, as the belief is that a woman should be loved for their modesty, not for their physical appearance. Not saying that I justify this or I believe in this. This is just how the laws are written and why there is a morality police to enforce it. So they saw that her hijab was a little loose, so it was a little bit further back on her head, so revealing some of her hair, and that her pants were too tight. In Iran, as you can see from the picture that we have on screen, she's wearing essentially a gown over her outfit, and that's to hide your physical appearance. So like no accentuating features, none of that in Iran. But her pants were a bit too tight, and I guess her gown was a little bit higher, closer to the waist, so people could see like the shape of her legs. So she was detained.
Sorry, I just. I'm sorry.
Are you picturing your students, Simon, and what they get away with? Are you picturing your students in Germany and what they get away with?
I just wanted to add that I feel like, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like this is what she did was nothing extraordinary for an Iranian woman to do, right?
Nope.
So the way she wears her hijab is like showing hair up front is maybe for Saudi Arabia like unheard of, but in Iran the women have always been very progressive and have always been, you know, stressing those laws. So it's I would say I don't know much about Iran, but from the little I know,
well, let's give Sam the chance to comment on how normal that is.
You're absolutely right. So over the last few decades since the 79 revolution, I will not call it an Islamic revolution, and I will tell you why later. The revolution that happened at 79 and Iran became a Islamic revolution post that movement. Yes, over time, the boundaries started to get pushed, and the social and cultural norms started to also shift with that. So there was slowly progression happening, and things were starting to change here and there. Laws were not really changing, so laws have stayed the same. And this was a lot more common. Like you could see this in Tehran, and people wouldn't bat an eye at it. They'd be like, okay, cool, whatever, moving on. No one would even blink twice. But every time a woman goes out, they have that fear. They've had that fear for decades. And they've had that fear every time they leave their house. That has been a very common thing that women in Iran have lived with, is that I could be critiqued on the fact that my hijab is a little too loose, or that I decided to dye my hair a specific color, like dye my hair just a little bit different. And we're not even talking about extravagant colors like blue or green or anything like that. We're just talking, you know, you just want your hair to be a different color. People might see that and be like, what are you doing? And if the morality police sees you, you could potentially get detained and be sent for re-education. And that is what happened with Mahsa Amini. She was detained, and she was sent for re-education. Now, original details that came out did not cover all the details, but there has been leaked documents, and we now understand that what happened to her is that when she was detained, first of all, her brother was also hit, who was opposing the arrest. He was speaking out against, like, she's fine, she's not breaking any rules. They took her into the truck, and other eyewitnesses at the police station also confirmed that she received trauma to the head. Because what happened to Mahsa Amini, which the heavily edited footage that the police station released, shows that she's fainting while trying to sit in one of the lecture halls. And they blamed her death, which was 2 days after she was detained. She was in a hospital and underwent a coma, was due to the blunt force trauma to her head while under the morality police. So this happens. What happens next is when the family gets the body back, they are told to say this narrative. They are told to say this narrative by the police. And the police take forever to release the information. And even at her own funeral, no one was allowed to see the body. And there was also police presence. After...
Is that common
No.
Sam,
No.
in Islamic funerals?
No. Police do not attend funerals. That is
I
not
meant
a common
the
thing.
part where no one was allowed to see the body.
No, you can see the body. You can see the body. But the thing is, even when they gave the body to the parents, no one got to see the body. So it was under strict surveillance. Only after her mother's outrage repeatedly did they let her see her daughter's body for 4 seconds.
Oh my God.
What happened after that was that the funeral, and this is why the police presence was there was fear that the funeral was going to turn into a protest, and it did. And this is one of our provinces that's neighboring Iraq. It's not central. It is not a heavily populated area. There are quite a lot of Kurds there, but it's not the same as if it's something that happens in a big city like Toronto in North America and Canada specifically, where news spreads like wildfire.
Yeah.
But news spread of what happened here. And people started to march on the streets. And in retaliation, what happens next is, as some of you may know, what happened at Sharif University in close to Tehran. If someone's going to correct me on this geopolitically, I hope they do. But I believe Sharif University is close to Tehran. What happened is that the head of the school told everyone it's okay to come into school. Once everyone showed up at the school, he locked everyone in and ran away. What happens next is militia and security forces showed up. They started rounding up as many people as they could. They were using rubber bullets. There are cases where people have claimed that live rounds were used. Because we don't have enough information that's come out of Sharif University, and with the internet outage, that's the biggest problem, is we can't verify everything that is currently happening. We do know that a lot of people got detained, and a lot of the students that got detained were put into Evin prison, one of the most notorious prisons in the world for human rights violations. There are even voice clips, and I believe I might have sent this to you, Mr. Pink, of one of the university students that got out. She was one of the lucky few that didn't get detained, and you could just hear the strain in her voice, explaining experiencing the situation that she went through, and her voice is breaking the whole time. And it's absolutely just, even myself thinking back to it, it's heartbreaking to hear. She talks about how she was thrown to the ground, and she knows that there was at least 10 police officers with batons beating her. And many of the other university students either didn't make it out alive. We know that TAs were trying to stand in the way of fire. We know that professors were trying to stand in the way of fire. They were there. And I have to also explain the significance of Sharif University. So Sharif University is our Harvard equivalent in Iran. And while that may not sound like much coming from a third world country, I will give you guys context as to why it is very extremely relevant. So in Iran, when you finish high school, you have a year to study for an exam. This is your placement exam on which school you get into and what programs you can study for. Only the top get into Sharif University. So that is why this carries a lot of significance, because these were the
brightest of the brightest.
The brightest of the brightest and the youngest with the most potential. And this is not the first time that acts like this have been committed by the regime. That is something that I have to specify here. Every time protests happen, first of all, you go for the smartest people, and this will try and put fear into everyone else. Now, with what was happening, the next thing that happened is that some students were able to get word out of what happened and what was happening. So people mobilized. Civilians mobilized to go and barricade the university. Civilians mobilized to barricade other universities. And it kept going. The next day, as we mentioned very early on in this conversation, high school students started to protest. Kids 14 to 17 years old started protesting. Women, life, freedom. Education ministry officials would come to try and talk to them. They would be chanting, "Get lost." in the top of every classroom in Iranian schools, there's a picture of the supreme leader. People started to take those down. They started to step on them. Some people flipped them around, and on the back they wrote, Zan Zendagi Azadi, which translates to women, life, freedom. And this happened only Sunday. And we know for a fact right now that protests are continuing every day. And a lot of people would look at this and think that this is an attack against religion. It's not. What's going on in Iran, everyone is unified. With what happened in the schools and the protests that were happening, over 1 million people across the world marched. In Toronto on Saturday, 50,000 people marched. Talking to my own dad on Sunday, thankfully I was able to talk to him on WhatsApp. He's one who had lost hope in change happening in Iran. And he himself told me, there is no going back. For me to hear someone who lived through the revolution, who survived the Iran-Iraq war, who's gone through so much and made sure that me, my brother, and my sister are here living in Canada, to say that there is no going back, I believe there's no going back. I myself started to speak out on Instagram as well as Facebook. And I'm sure we all know Facebook is one of those platforms where there's always a lot of people that have very strong vocal opinions about politics, whether right or wrong, however you look at their views. I had to make this decision because what I do on Facebook on my feed is I don't ever get political. Sometimes I do, but I never post anything in that regard, in that context, in that language. For me, I use Facebook as a way to give people an escape on social media so that they can go somewhere and find some funny content that's relatable. So all I do is I post memes. I have not posted memes for at least a week. Instead, I'm posting things publicly, which puts myself at a small amount of risk. And I'll talk about this in a moment. But I made that decision to stop sharing memes and start sharing information of what's coming out of Iran and how people can help and what people can do to help spread word of what's happening, because mainstream media currently isn't covering it. And if they are, they're not covering the full story. They're covering the narrative that they want you and I to hear so that they buy into the direction that they want to move. And that's something that currently makes me it makes me sick to my stomach, to be honest.
Yeah. Just wanted to note that in the chat while you were talking, Mike Tremblay has joined us, and he noted that he said this conversation is shared on Facebook, and he asked, what can we do on the outside to aid this protest of freedom?
Absolutely, Mike. Thank you for joining, and thank you for engaging with this conversation. There are currently 2 things that people can do outside the country. The first one is to sign the Amnesty International petition that is currently going on. I have a quick link saved somewhere. I have too many windows open. Apologies. Let me quickly find it, and I will throw it in the chat.
Oh, you have YouTube open, right? You can put it in the chat.
Yep,
Sometimes
I do have it. I do have it open. I'm just trying to find which window I put it on because I have too many things open. It's not there. It's not there. Kids, this is why I don't have 4 windows open with 2 million tabs.
It's understandable. It happens to the best of us.
Guilty of that all the time.
But I'll need it later.
Exactly. I'm going to read this one day.
Where did I put that link? Oh my god.
I'm sure we can find that and edit edit later.
Well, it's the Amnesty International, right?
Yes, it is. I just had a tiny URL for it that made it easier to copy paste as well in case people wanted to share.
Oh, well, if we're putting it in the chat, people can like just copy and paste it out of the chat.
Absolutely. So I already have that tab open. So there we are. There we go. So that is the link for the Amnesty International petition. The second thing you can do is currently the song that everyone is using in protests and chanting and sharing it on social media and all over the world is written by Shervin Amor Hajipur. I was about to butcher his last name.
Yeah, Sam, the link didn't show up in the chat. I'm not sure why.
I think it's because you haven't got mod privilege. If you want to put it in our chat here, I can just post it straight in.
I appreciate that. I will put it in our chat. Stream chat. Bam. Wham.
Thank you. Thanks, Flynn.
Sorry.
No problem. And the second thing, as I was saying, is currently the song that is being used by the movement and is being spread around and is raising a high level of awareness is called Baraye, which translates to either for or because. And this song talks about the Iranian people's current plight and the hopes and wishes that they have for a better freedom. This song, as long as you can share it somewhere, talk about it, make people listen to it, use it in the content that you're making, that is going to help it. And what it will help it do is currently it is actually nominated for an Emmy for social change. So if it's shared more and listened to more, that is going to provide an extensive amount of coverage that currently we're not getting. It's going to force people's eyes during the Emmys. That's the next big thing that you can currently do. So both things that I'm currently asking you to do requires no money. The next thing is there will very likely be marches and protests this very coming Saturday. I don't know the details of the one in Toronto yet myself. I believe it starts at Queen's Park at 3:30. But there will be one in every major city in every major country.
Yep.
Yeah,
so feel free to add your voice in.
Yep.
And the big thing that's coming out of the news and the rhetoric right now is that they're saying that this is all happening because of the sanctions. The sanctions are a part of it. They're not the full story. The sanctions themselves, if the sanctions weren't there, something else would have added to the pile. The death of Mahsa Amini was the straw in the camel's pack, is the best way that I can put the current situation that's happening right now. People have been fed up for a very long time. People have really wanted change and hoped for the best, and things were going in that direction for some time. And then they weren't. And when people can't express their own freedoms and wishes, and they've lived under this oppressive regime for so long, enough's enough. And people are at the point where they feared losing, they have nothing else left to lose. That's where we're at now.
Yeah. Do you have a link to the song? We could share that as well.
Absolutely. So there's been a lot of people that have been posting it everywhere, and also reposting it, as in posting it under their own name. So the one that I'm copying is by the original singer, and it's on Spotify. I apologize if you're not using Spotify, but the song link itself is going to add to what we're trying to do right now, is continue to spread awareness. Let me just open the chat real quick. And here's the link to the song. And if you guys wanted to have an English translation of the song, there is one as well. I will find that real quick so you guys can understand what the lyrics mean, because I know not everyone speaks Farsi.
And this is not the one, because I'd seen a video earlier about one that was based on a song that was sung in Italy. That was a different one, right? That's not. This is not inspired by any.
This song is not. This one is an original. So the artist behind the song was arrested after releasing this song, and they were released on Sunday, and they were made to make a formal apology about releasing the song by the regime.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm sure everyone will take it out of their ears after hearing that formal apology. Wow.
Absolutely.
That's a bit telling about like how like I don't know, the regime likes to pretend it's in control still. I'm glad they were released. I'm glad that they didn't suffer the same fate as Mahsa Amini.
There's been other kids that have died. There's a
I know. Who was the more recent one?
Nikia, if I remember her name correctly, it's Nikia. She died at the age of 17 and was buried on the day of her birthday. She was missing for 10 days. Some accounts say 9, some accounts say 10. I personally myself believe the account is 9. That's the correct one. They don't know what happened to her. She went missing from one of the protests. And the only way that the parents and the family found out is they were first of all calling all the different police stations. They were calling all the prisons. And eventually they started calling the morgues. And one of the morgues confirmed that she was there and that they had received her body on the 29th, but had yet to call them. Because it's so busy and everyone's calling. So they just didn't have the time because everyone's trying to figure out where everyone else is. Just to give you an idea, these are just a few stories that are getting out. So there's a lot of unspoken stories about what's happening back home that we are yet to hear, heard about other people missing and other people vanishing. And what happened after that is that her relatives, so her uncle and aunt, tweeted that she was killed in the protests. They were forced to make formal apologies. And one of the videos that got released of her uncle making the formal apology, if you listen closely, you can actually hear the officer off camera saying, "Say the lines."
Oh my God.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm saying that a lot tonight, but did you guys see the documentary? Oh Jesus, what was it? World Metal Worldwide.
I don't know that one.
I don't think I have.
I saw that when I was in university, so it's dating back quite a while, and there was like a team that wanted to make a documentary about a German heavy metal festival, and they did, and this documentary was well received by people from all over the world. And what they did was they did a second documentary about metal fans all over the world. And
oh, I've heard of that one. Yeah, and
they went to Iraq and Iran.
Yes.
And yeah, they so this is, having heard about this morale police, they described that they had been beaten on the street, and that they had cut off their hair because their hair was supposedly like satanistic something.
Oh yes, absolutely. Fun fact. So for myself, I moved back to Iran early to mid 2000s. I was back home for 2 years and I studied at the international school in Tehran. I myself am a Warhammer fan. I had recently gotten into the hobby, so I took my miniatures back home with me. I brought my dice into school to just show my friends. The teachers thought that it was for gambling.
Yes.
Oh no!
A bunch of D6s got confiscated because, like, you're gambling in school. I'm like, no, it's a board game. Calm down. It's like playing Sorry.
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
So, for all the East European and West Europe and West, people who are screaming that their governments are supposedly like regimes and stuff like that. We have that in Germany.
Yeah, like with COVID restrictions and like how it's
Like this is
there's real restrictions in the world.
Like,
yeah.
Well, you never know how bad it is somewhere else, right?
I pulled up a picture of it's Nika Shakarami.
Nika Shakarami, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Well, this gives you a little piece, but what I can say, you talked about the narrative that is being told by or you are afraid of, that people are protesting because the limitations and stuff like that. The German media has made it pretty clear why the protests are happening. That it was because
honestly, what Germany has been sharing and the level of support and awareness that has been happening in Germany brings joy to me, because I know that a lot of this is something that we haven't talked about yet. So another reason why this has been the biggest and most significant movement is that even state-sponsored celebrities, including our soccer players and our artists, have been speaking out. And that means they're losing their entire livelihood. Their passports are being revoked, and a lot of them have to be shipped back home. One of the German ministers actually spoke out against doing that, even though they don't have proper documentation. And I was very happy to see that. I was very happy to see that. So you're right. And I'm so happy to see that situations like that are taking place and that people are aware of what's going on and taking appropriate action.
Sam, how do you feel about what you've seen on Canadian media? Because I've seen a little bit, not a ton. There was like an explainer from CBC that I reshared the other day. So that was like a start from Canadian media, but like, how do you feel about what you're seeing or not seeing?
This is where some of my own political views come into play as well. I will give that disclaimer. I'm very disappointed. I'm extremely disappointed that Canada is not sharing enough information about what's going on. And the narrative is again being forced onto the conservatives versus the liberals here. Whereas the whole conversation point that's happening right now and is being pushed to everyone is the fact that Pierre Trudeau has not recognized the IRGC as a terrorist organization. To give everyone context of what the IRGC is, because I'm using an acronym here.
You mean Justin Trudeau?
Yes, correct. Thank you for correcting me, Justin Trudeau.
That's okay.
Iranian Revolutionary Guard. That's the organization that we're talking about. The focus is between the liberals and the conservatives. The conservatives are pushing for that organization to be recognized as a terrorist organization. That, in the big scheme of things, is not the most important thing right now. But that's what the media is covering.
So it's like the most symbolic gesture that the conservatives can do to say that like they did something.
Absolutely. And a fun fact, it was thanks to Stephen Harper that our embassy was closed in Canada. Right now, as an Iranian citizen, if I need to get my passport renewed, I have to ship it to the Pakistani embassy in the U.S. to get my documentation renewed.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Because Harper pretended that he was dealing with quote-unquote terrorism or something.
Yes.
Well, the less said about Harper, the better. That guy was a mess. Anyway.
Yeah, so when I got to see that the current Conservative Party leader was at the protest and the rally and was speaking up, I understood that speech was very symbolic. Those were hollow words to me. It was nice to the people that were there, but it was hollow words and it was for personal agenda, which made me feel very disgusted.
Is this Dollar Store Millhouse?
Yep.
Pierre Poilievre?
Yep. Dollar Store Millhouse.
Yeah. Yeah, we got our own little Trump brewing in Canada right now, Simon.
Oh, Jesus.
Do you know Simpsons?
Yeah.
You know the character Millhouse with the blue hair with glasses?
Yeah.
Basically looks like a cheap version of him.
Oh, shit. Does he have blue hair as well?
He does not.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Would at least make him stand out, right?
Anyway, yeah, he's a very populist dude. He's like doing a lot of stuff for his own purposes, so yeah.
Hooray. That's exactly what the world needs right now. More idiots like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the current.
Sorry, Sam.
Wait. Is he successful?
Well, he was successful in being elected the leader of the party, but I'm hoping that he will not be successful in actually getting elected.
Because if he would, that would screw our plans. Because our plans have been, if we have a right government in Germany, we would, throw everything over. Move to Canada. So
please do come to Canada.
You got to do something about that, man.
So thank you for saying that. Call to action. Please go to the protest, because if you're pushing human rights and women's rights right now, that's going to tell your internal government, wait a second, we should reconsider these policies internally within our own state.
Yeah.
That is actually what one of the comedians is currently sharing. Is like, why should you care about what's happening in Iran? And this is exactly the reason. Because if you're talking about human rights and human freedoms, and you live in a state that is starting to regress, for lack of better phrasing, this is one way to put that front and center for them, to reconsider what stances they're trying to take if they want to get the right votes.
And especially, it's kind of, it feels like it's a look into a glass ball, right? No, it's more like a look into the future. So if you have some very conservative, well, the term conservative is used differently in Germany than it is in English. But if you have like very, how would you say that? Like,
well, we say right wing.
Right wing, yeah.
In English, conservative tends to be a shorthand for right wing. It also tends to be like for like old traditional values.
Yeah. So if you have
like less welcoming, less inclusive.
Yeah, you can see where this leads you if you look closely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the closer we push that way, the closer we are to 1984.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did Sam, didn't you have to run, or like what's your schedule like? I didn't know what.
So I did tell them that I was going to be on a stream, and I was taking a look at the time since I have two screens in front of me. So I have been very cognizant of that, but they also know that I might be late. Also, I'm painting their miniatures, so they can't really complain that I'm late. Fun fact, I'm painting 3 D&D minis right now for my D&D campaign that happens every other Friday with my cousins in Toronto. And I know that tonight we're likely going to be sitting there and discussing the politics of what's happening, and they're fascinated about what I talked about on the stream today. So I've got quite a bit ahead of me.
So you're not concerned about being late or anything?
No, I gave them the heads up.
Okay, good. So anyone else? I know that Tom has mentioned that like he's there in the chat, and though he's not asking questions, like he's definitely interested in listening. So he's listening in the chat. If anyone has any questions in the chat, let us know. Or anything that you want to say about things that you've heard or things that you've learned, like whether here or elsewhere. I didn't know how much time we were going to dedicate to this on this stream, but I'm glad that we have been able to dedicate this much time to it.
Yeah.
Because it's important. And yeah, if for some reason you're not here to hear about this and you want aimless hobby bullshit, there will be more aimless hobby bullshit tomorrow. We're doing a different stream about the Games Workshop preview. And honestly, you can go any other YouTube stream right now, any other Instagram profile, and find your aimless hobby bullshit. So yeah, we're just talking what's affecting Iranian gamers right now. And like, yeah, hobbyists, whether they be in Iran or like elsewhere, expats who have family in Iran. So yeah, it's important to them. So important to us. And like, we did like a whole stream where we talked about like Ukraine, and we talked about like, you know, the whole like Project Arvis.
Like, make money man. If someone doesn't want to hear this, they can switch off and go back to the.
I don't want to apologize. I just want to say that I'm very happy to make. I'm not apologizing. Fuck that. I'm very happy to make space for this because I was not well informed, And I got better informed thanks to Zolak and what he's been posting on Instagram. And the more informed I got, the more mad I got. And also, like I kind of mentioned before, like the more impressed I got. Like watching videos of teenage girls in high school, like standing up to male authority figures in a country where, as Zolak said, you need to get permission from a man to leave the country. Like that's something. Like that's huge.
And I think that, sorry.
Go ahead. Also I wanted to whether you realized it or not, Simon, you know The Expanse?
Yes. Yeah, I like watching your stories, man.
What? Oh, so you've seen the ones I've shared from Shohreh?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, so Academy Award winning actress from Sand of House and Fog, and more recently from The Expanse, our queen, Avasarala.
Yes.
Shohreh, God, I cannot pronounce Shohreh's last name. Do you know Shohreh's last name?
Oh, God. So here's the thing. I gotta look up her name and then I can pronounce it. But if someone else says it, I can't do the pronunciation correction.
So what you're saying is that I should butcher her name. I should butcher her name, and then you should fix it for me.
Yes, I'll Persian explain her name.
Okay, it's Shohreh Aghdashloo. Aghdashloo.
So her name is Shohreh Aghdashloo.
There we go. Way better than I could do. So she played Christian Avasarala on The Expanse. She's friggin' fantastic. I almost met her once. I was this close to meeting her, but I didn't. But yeah, she's awesome, and she's of Iranian descent, and she's been sharing a lot of stuff about this. And like even before this, like she often shares things about like Iran and like kind of like the history of Iran, because like I'm guilty of having been raised on the Western ideology about Iran and like all the like crap with the United States and like
death to America,
like bullshit stuff about terrorism and stuff like that. But like I didn't know that like what Iran was before the it became the Islamic Republic, and like
it was
just
beautiful.
How like crazy cosmopolitan it was. Like she posted some pictures of like her and her friends like before that all happened, and like they were classy as fuck, man. Like they were like styling, profiling.
Yep.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful what women could do. Speaking of other actresses that have also spoken out, the One Rings female actress Nazanin Boniadi is also spoken out. So she is Bronwyn in the new Lord of the Rings themed show on Amazon Prime. So she has also spoken out.
Wait, she
is also Persian.
Wait, is she like Durin's wife? No.
No.
Who's Bronwyn?
She's from the Southlands.
The one with the son.
The medicine woman.
Oh shit! She's the one that my favorite YouTuber affectionately refers to as the MILF.
Oh.
She's the super hot lady. Yeah, I didn't know. Holy crap!
The more you know.
Yeah, she's super hot. She's
what I would like to
and like it doesn't help that they dress her in like this super low cut thing. Hold on, I'll get a picture of her for you. Because she's like super hot. Oh yeah, I'm the mother of this like 14-year-old kid. No, you're not. You're not anyone's mother. Okay, where's like a respectful picture that isn't too crazy hot? Oh, she's just crazy hot and everything. I don't know.
Yeah, she is.
Oh, will they have one of her with her Lord of the Rings stuff? I don't know. Oh, here we go. I'll just get the Lord of the Rings one.
A good while ago, I watched I watched a documentary where they showed like what Iran was previous to the sanctions from the US, because they kind of had released those sanctions a while ago, and then they turned back on them.
Gotta thank Trump for that one.
Yeah. and
he turned them back.
Well, yeah, Trump was the one that brought the sanctions back. He's like,
oh wow,
his statement
he brought them back.
Was his statement was that
he needed another terrorist when there wasn't one, and he just used Iran for that. And what I found I'm historically interested, and I'm religion teacher and stuff like that. So what I've never really understood was how deep and how important the region that today Iran is and cultural important has been, like with the Babylonians and stuff like that. Like there's so much like cultural impact coming from that region, and nowadays everyone reducing that area just to crazy Islamistic ideology. Yeah. And what it's so easy to forget is how rich and important this whole region is to the whole world.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because I find poetry is almost in our genetics. I myself, anytime I'm feeling really up or down, I sit and I write poetry. Don't necessarily share it all the time, but it's I definitely take inspiration from a lot of old ancient Persian poetry, which has double meaning and it's open to interpretation, because the words, the craftsmanship behind the words is so well thought out.
It's a really old language after all, right?
Yep. Some people just study it so they can understand the old poetry, and they fall in love with it.
Wow, cool. Yeah, so just to I've got I'll need to wrap this up sometime soon, but to confirm for people, the best action they can take is to sign the Amnesty International petition.
I think this is
which we have a link.
Most important part about this is that usually you see an unright anywhere and you feel powerless about it and see like, okay, this is bullshit on the other side of the world, and I'm feeling sorry for the people there, but that doesn't help them, right? But here we have something we can do, and I think that's very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then I guess would you say, Sam, that the other thing people can do is just share news about Iran?
Absolutely.
And make sure that everyone knows and tell their friends?
Absolutely. And I know we all sit in the day and age where everyone thinks that doing that is being a keyboard warrior, but we actually need the keyboard warriors right now, because there's not enough news coverage. Okay. And it's one of those very rare circumstances where I will 100% tell you that what you are showing in social media is accurate and is truthful to what is happening, because that's the only way we're actually getting our news. Even BBC, which Flynn, you mentioned earlier, is starting to share information about what's happening this week. The reason that it took them so long is that they have to sit there and verify what they're getting from social media. So they're sitting there looking through the footage, trying to find unique landmarks to verify that this is actually from where people are claiming it is, and then confirming the information to be able to report on.
Yeah.
And also, there's also BBC
that in the news news report itself, and we're confirming it by there are people actually there, the journalists that are there having to go across the streets to go, that matches up with the video, that matches up with the timestamps and all the other things.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. I'm supposed to be at my cousin's house in 7 minutes, and since we don't have teleportation devices, I am going to bow out. I want to thank you all for the time, for giving me space. Honestly, I am more than happy to come on and talk more in the future. I love you guys. Like, you guys are great. This has been a pleasure. And actually, if anything, I will join you guys tomorrow for the stream, so we can see what exciting announcements come out of tomorrow.
Yeah, please. Yeah, so tomorrow's going to be an open stream for anyone who wants to watch. I don't know. I feel like before I do that, I just got to seriously. Wait, did Sam just drop off? Are you still here?
No, I'm here.
me.
I heard like a ding, like someone dropped
Yeah,
off.
that was Flynn. I
Sorry?
thought I got kicked out. I'm like,
Oh.
wow, that was rude.
I had to drop out. I couldn't hear anything you guys were saying.
Oh no.
Oh shit. Sorry, Flynn. Yeah, thank you once again, Sam. Thank you to everyone who's here listening to this with us live. Thank you to anyone who's listening to this not live. Even though you weren't able to join us live, you can still like take some of the actions that Sam was sharing with us. I know this isn't Warhammer, but like there's plenty of time for Warhammer later. There's gonna be time for Warhammer tomorrow, and I think it's important to talk about this stuff and get it out there because, like I said myself, I was not fully informed about what was going on with this until I saw what Sam was sharing. I'll continue sharing stuff in my story on Instagram, and folks, I encourage folks to do the same and share to like your friends both on the internet and in real life about this stuff. And I just hope that your dad's right and that there's no turning back and that this is all going to be for something. It's all going to make a difference because it sounds like it really needs to.
Every day I wake up with that hope, and every day I continue to share content to further amplify that voice. The risk that was, I didn't talk too much about the risk that was associated for Iranians that live outside the country. Fun fact, a lot of us actually change our last names on Facebook and social media to make sure that when we go back and visit, anything that we post isn't traced to us. So I myself putting things on my own public name, there is a small risk. It pales in comparison to what anyone else has to deal with that's living there right now and trying to get information out. But I took that risk knowing that more than likely, if the regime was to stay, I can't go back ever.
Yeah. And I didn't know, I missed it in all the stuff that you were sharing, but I honestly didn't know that your family is still there, or like that you're well, obviously you must have a lot of family there, but that your mom and dad are there.
Yes.
And I can only start to imagine what that must be like and the additional layers that adds to everything, both in terms of motivating you to do as much as you can and also being so afraid for your family. So I'm sorry that you're going through that.
Thank you for the kind words.
I hope that they can stay safe and yeah. And yeah, honestly, thanks for sharing all of this. And I really hope that like we're not in any way, you're not sharing anything you're not comfortable with, or like we're not in any way like endangering your family by talking about this. I don't know how that works exactly, but yeah, we just really appreciate it. And you're already doing so much labor, emotional labor to get this stuff out there and to deal with what you're dealing with, like with your family, with your friends. So this is additional emotional labor, and I really appreciate that. So thank you for taking on that labor.
It's all we can do right now, really. It's the least I can do with being safe and not in the country, which is not what I can say for most other people.
Yeah, I just wanted to go through the chat. Diana, who's always a sweetheart, says thank you for everything you've said and for telling us how we can contribute. Mike Tremblay, who commented earlier, said, what info can we share to bring others to share this movement? I'm not sure. You've said some stuff already. I don't know if there's anything else you want to share.
If you want to share information
David
on
is a lover of Shohreh.
Sorry to interrupt you, but if you want to share information on social media, follow me on Instagram. So it's THE_Zolak, ZOLAK. I share stuff all the time, and I make sure that I'm sharing the relevant information, that it's the correct dates and the correct information, because sometimes people share things that aren't correct. I sit through and I verify the information every day to make sure that it's right, accurate, and still relevant to what's going on, because information also changes as new things come out.
Yeah. I'm gonna put your Instagram in the chat for everyone, and I'll make sure that it goes in the video description for this video after the fact. You can find...
How do you spell it again?
Oh, I've got it.
Okay.
Oh, you mean his Instagram or other one?
No, okay. I'm spelling it wrong anyway. I've seen you post it now.
Flynn, I believe you already do follow me.
I'm just double checking. I do now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and Eric Christensen says thank you for sharing. Eric, thanks for being here and joining and listening.
Yes.
Now I'm looking at your Instagram and all your inflatable dinosaur pictures. There you go. You can go enjoy inflatable dinosaurs as well.
I'm also in the convention community as well. So I dip into a lot of different nerddoms, you could say.
Yeah, and as things like change, if there are new things that people can do to help out, like I hope I'm assuming you'll share them on your Instagram, on your stories. Oh, and I wanted to ask you, what's your icon that you're using?
So
for Instagram, you changed your profile picture.
I did. So that Instagram or that picture is what's currently being used in all of the slogans, and it's in the Persian alphabet, which is borrowed from the Arabic alphabet, but it does say Zan, Zendegi, Azadi, which, as we've talked about earlier during the stream, is woman, life, freedom.
Nice. All right. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Flynn and Simon for being a part of this and for sharing the space and for talking about it. Thank you to everyone in the chat who has been here, anyone who's watching this live or recorded. Yeah, just for being better informed. That's a start. And then if you can share more about this with people, even if you just I don't know, share out the video and then people can watch it on their own and learn more about what's going on in Iran. That way, that's a start. And yeah, we promise to be back to regular scheduled Games Workshop bullshit tomorrow morning, bright and early at 8:45 Eastern, 1:45 British time, 2:45 German time. So feel free to join us for that, and we'll do some bullshit there. And then the next stream we're gonna have is on Wednesday. It's gonna be an evening stream, a work in progress stream, and then we'll be back with Flynn and Hydra. I don't know what Friday that is. The following Friday, whatever that is, 20 something maybe. I don't know. Yeah, going forward, I keep trying to mention this because I think it all makes sense in my head, and I think everyone else is like, Mr. Pink, when the hell are you streaming? We're going to be alternating streams. 1 week is going to be Wednesday nights. 1 week's going to be Friday afternoon, evenings. So yeah, that'll be the way going forward. And yeah, and I think on our next one, Flynn will have some very exciting things to talk to us about related to November, so you can look forward to that.
Yeah.
November.
Cool.
Gotta get my next paint.
3.
And as we've been doing this, I realize Nora is out front gardening with our neighbor, who is Persian, and I completely fucking forgot that until right now, so I should probably go say hi to her.
You could tell her how you stream.
Way to go!
You got your audience informed by someone who studied political science who's also Persian.
There we go. All right. Well, everyone, I usually say stay healthy, stay safe. We're all fucking safe. We're all in very safe places. But yeah, if you have friends or family who are in Iran who are affected by this, if you're part of the expat community, I'm sorry for everything you're going through. The rest of us who are not directly impacted, we have a lot of stuff that we can do to help out. So let's do it.
Yeah.
And
about to
yeah,
say,
we'll talk again soon. Simon, go ahead.
Yeah. Do what you can to keep it safe and healthy.
Yeah. And Sam, thank you so much. And have great D&D, buddy. Apologize to your cousins for us.
That's okay. I play Cobalt, so it'll be very chaotic tonight.
Nice.
Cool.
Roll some d20s.
Gotta pickpocket.
It's legal.
Yeah. Gotta pickpocket as a swashbuckler. It'll be fun.
Oh, man. All right. I'll talk to you gents later. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night, friends.